Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. Hi, friends and family of the internet and fellow watchers on the wall. Boy, do we guys have to talk about this. So, most of you know that I live in Southeast Louisiana, and recently there was a hydrocarbon explosion, which subsequently poisoned 100 miles of pristine river and a local lake, right? And it's a big deal. But one of the things I began to do was kind of dig into what our lives, yours and mine, would look like without big oil. Like, what are the things that we depend on every single day that comes from the oil industry, and how things may be very, very different if we didn't have that industry? Hey, guys. Hey, Lisa, Debbie, and Kelly, my first three on. As you pop on, hit the like button, drop over in comments, tell me who you are, where you're watching from. Also, want to update you guys. So we just returned from New Orleans. My husband is going to have surgery on his sinuses. It's multifaceted. There's a lot of things going on in his face. He was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm about 10 weeks ago at the age of 46, and they have connected that to a fungi bacteria that is growing in all four of his sinus cavities. It is very, very severe. And we're praying surgery will be sooner than later. We should know Monday what date they have chosen and where exactly it's going to be held. But we will have to stay in New Orleans for a few days because of the brain aneurysm. My thing is this. It really frustrates me how modern medicine is handled. And I know a lot of you have gone through this. I didn't know, and how many of you heard me say this? You don't know what you don't know until you know it. I did not know, how things were in the medical industry until I had to live it. Like, what happens when you use up all your sick days? What happens when, your insurance is not accepted by the specialist that you need to see? What happens when you have to travel almost 2 hours to and from every single appointment? And how do you afford that while missing work? Because we all know, at least I do now, that you can't get disability for a brain aneurysm unless it fits a very specific set of rules, which at this point he doesn't meet, even though he is extremely ill. So I'm learning all of this while living it, and I thank God for the knowledge, right? But it does give me much empathy for others who have gone through it, and maybe I'm a little humbled by how well they handled it and how well I didn't help, if that makes sense. Now that I know what I know, from now on, I'll be a little more understanding. When I see people do fundraisers for medical expenses, I now understand that insurance does not cover everything. And what comes out of your pocket is way more than most people can let out of their pocket, if you take my gist on that. But I want to tell you a little bit about modern medical care and how it started and how the oil industry shaped how we are treated inside hospitals and doctors' offices today. For the ones of you that don't know this, I found this on an article called Global Research. It says how Rockefeller founded modern medicine and killed natural cures. This was originally published in October of 2015. People these days look at you like a weirdo if you talk about the healing properties of plants or other holistic practices. Much like anything else, there's a lot of politics and money behind our modern medical system. It all started with John D. Rockefeller in 1839, who was an oil magnate, a robber baron, and America's first billionaire, and a natural-born monopolist. All right. By the turn of the 20th century, he controlled 90% of all oil refineries in the U.S. At the same time, around 1900, scientists discovered petrochemicals and the ability to create all kinds of new chemicals from this oil, this petrochemical. Even the first plastic in 1907 came from oil. Scientists were also discovering various vitamins and guessed that many pharmaceutical drugs could be made from, you guessed it, oil. This was a wonderful opportunity for Rockefeller folks, who saw the ability to not only monopolize our oil, but also the medical industry at the same time. The best thing about petrochemicals was that everything could be patented and sold at a high price. But there was one problem with Rockefeller's plan for the medical industry. Anybody know what it is? Thank you, Melody. Anybody know what the one big problem that Rockefeller ran into? I'll give you a second to think about it. Natural and herbal medicines were very popular in America at that time. Almost half the doctors and all of the medical colleges in the U.S. practiced holistic medicine that had come from Europe or from the Native Americans that were already here in this country when we settled it. So think about that. Up until 1930, all the healing that was done through plants and herbs and Native American knowledge and European knowledge, and it was suited to the person. You weren't just a number. You were not just an appointment that the doctor had to fit in before lunch or before surgery. You were individually tailored to what you needed. Rockefeller, the monopolist, had to figure out a way to get rid of his biggest competition. So he used the classic strategy of problem, reaction, solution. Let me give you an example of that. Terrorism scare, Patriot Act. Yeah. He went to his buddy, Andrew Carnegie. Everybody knows the Carnegie name, right? Carnegie Hall Foundation, all that good stuff. Another millionaire who devised a scheme together, and they sent a man named Abraham Flexner. Some of you may have heard of something called the Flexner Report, which gave birth to modern medicine as we know it. So this gentleman, Flexner, traveled the entirety of the United States to see what was being taught in medical schools. Then he came back and did a report. Needless to say, the report talked about the need for revamping and centralizing our medical institutions. Based on this report, more than half of all medical schools were soon closed. Homeopathy and natural remedies were mocked and demonized, and doctors were even sent to jail. What does that sound like? Do you guys remember in COVID, there were doctors that lost their license, as well as pastors that were thrown in jail for continuing to have church? But bars were open. You could go gamble, right? You couldn't get COVID inside of a gambling hall, right? To help with the transition and to change the minds of other doctors and scientists, Rockefeller gave more than $100 million to colleges and hospitals. Now, this is in the 1900s. That would be like giving probably $700 million out in today's world, if not more. And founded a philanthropic front group called General Education Board, the GEB. It's the classic carrot and stick approach, folks. In a very short time, medical college were all streamlined, learning the exact same thing. All the students were learning that medicine was about using patented drugs. Scientists received huge grants to study how plants cure diseases, but they weren't studying to be able to give you the plant. They were studying to recreate a similar chemical, not identical, similar, in the lab that could then be patented. A pill for an ill became the mantra for modern medicine. It went from an apple a day keeps the doctor away to this nonsense, a pill for an ill. I want you guys to really think about that. America spends 15% of its GDP on healthcare, which should be really called sick care, right? Because when was the last time our healthcare system cured anything. When was the last time you went to the doctor, came home, and you actually felt better and you had a better quality of life? Think about it. But I will say this. Somebody has sent me oregano oil when they found out that Stephen had a brain aneurysm. And the other day when I got sick, I remembered and I tried it. And I vomited for 24 hours. Not everybody can take the same natural remedies in the same amounts for the same illnesses and your body respond. Just like I can't take Benadryl. I cannot. If I take Benadryl, not only am I wired, I have restless leg syndrome. I cannot take Finnegan. It's the exact same thing. It doesn't put me to sleep. It gives me restless leg syndrome. My husband cannot take Tramadol at all. The reactions are horrific. So everybody is not the same with patent medical medicine, right? Pills. Just like everybody is not the same with herbal remedies either. It says, why would there ever be real cures? There's no cure for cancer, diabetes, autism, asthma, or even the flu. This is a system founded by oligarchs and plutocrats, not by doctors. So I want you to think about that. Your modern medicine, the way that hospitals, teaching facilities are set up, it's never been set up for cures. If you go in today, I had a conversation with my husband's ENT doctor, his surgeon, this morning. And I said, we know that there's a fungus in his face. Now, the doctor looked at the screen and goes, well, yeah. I almost slapped him. The CAT scan says there's a fungus. I said, so what are we going to do with that? Like, I'd like to see an infectious disease doctor like yesterday, because now his neck is getting stiff. His headaches are through the wall, and it's getting to where he cannot work. Like, how are we going to survive if he cannot work? Right? Because YouTube doesn't pay me. You guys already know that nonsense. And I'm looking at this man, and he goes, well, let me go get my boss, who's the actual surgeon. And she comes in, and she's telling my husband, well, I can't guarantee you that the headaches are going to go away. And I said, well, it's funny because 3 months ago, he didn't have the headaches, right? Now we have a bacteria, a fungus, and polyps in his face. And he's got horrific headaches. These are not migraines. These are headaches caused by infection around and in. It's caused an aneurysm in his brain. And you idiots can't put two and two together that maybe, just maybe, this is much more dangerous than, oh yeah, we have a little fungus in the face. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with doctors who cannot even think. You have to think for them. And I hate to feel that way, but that is how I feel. As for cancer, the American Cancer Society was founded by none other than the Rockefellers in 1913. And this month of breast cancer awareness, which is October, it is sad to see people being brainwashed about chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. That's for another post. But here's a quote from John D. Rockefeller that summarizes his vision for America. Oh, the quote didn't show. Oh, they must have taken it out. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. It says the Flexner Report is a book-length landmark report of medical education in the United States and Canada. You're welcome, Canada. We screwed y'all up too. Published in 1910 under the tutelage of the Carnegie Foundation. Flexner not only describes the state of medical education in North America, but also gives a detailed description of the medical schools that were operating at the time. He provided both criticism and recommendations for improvements. Many aspects of the present-day American medical profession stem from the Flexner Report and its aftermath. While it had many positive impacts on American medical education, the Flexner Report has been criticized for introducing policies that encourage systematic racism and sexism. Of course, that's Wikipedia, right? We got to talk about sexism and racism. We can't talk about how they literally stopped real health care and put in place sick care. I'm just saying. And then I was, out of curiosity, was looking to see what our lives would look like, without oil on a daily basis. And it says, first, we have transportation. With the overwhelmingly majority of the oil we produce and import devoted to powering our cars, our motorcycles, trains, and planes, the impact on getting around would be dramatic. Price gouging would begin right away, and long lines would form at gas stations. The lines wouldn't last, though, because the gasoline would not last either. A strategic reserve of finished petroleum products, gasoline, diesel, and aviation fuel, has often been suggested, but it's never actually been created. When Trump left his first 4 years as president, we actually had 100 years worth of petroleum finished products put up. First thing Biden did was dip into it. Yeah. Why? Why do they do that? Why do they do that? They do that so what I'm fixing to read to you will happen. Within a month, every fuel tank would be dry. All of our fuel gauges would be on the E, and the roads, the rails, and the skies would be virtually empty. How far is it to the nearest grocery store for you? Think about it. Drop it in comments if you'd like. How long does it take to walk or bike or skate to your job? Finally, confronting our dependency on motor vehicles, we'd reach for whatever solutions we could find. Soon we'd all be looking for an electric car, but there are precious few of those are converting our vehicles to run on natural gas. But we'd be waiting for some time to secure adequate natural gas supplies, especially delivery infrastructure, and switch over our cars, which most people don't understand. Electricity also comes from oil. I mean, it comes from coal to some extent, but also oil. Our enslavement to the black gold goes much further and much deeper than you think. Your electricity would go. It would start with brownouts, and then it would become blackouts. Your electricity is generated mostly from coal. But how would the coal be extracted without those diesel guzzling yellow trucks? How would it get to the power plants? Remember, trains run on diesel too. Heating and cooling of your home would suddenly get a lot more complicated. You would not have television, laptops, or the internet. Forget even trying to get any work anymore. We now have another set of problems to solve, especially if it's winter and you're freezing to death. What if we could quickly put together some solar panels and batteries, even a wind turbine? But you got to remember, wind turbines need oil to make them turn. It gets much worse. Of course, because a world without oil would quickly become a world without much and many of the products you use on a daily basis. Plastics, paints, medicines, hospital machines that go bleep, Barbie dolls, ballpoint pens, breast implants, golf balls, and clothing. Eating would get tougher too. Local farmers would become a necessity, not just the people who sell us honey at the street fair. That said, most of the fertilizers that large farms use, corporate farms use, are petroleum based. So you're getting my whole point. Oil is solar panel. I agree. Oil is solar panel. Solar power. The problem is when they don't clean it up. You got a 60-year-old plant that doesn't have a decent or educated group of maintenance workers who can't keep the plants running without it blowing up and poisoning 100 miles of river, which recently happened to me. Imagine the world suddenly without oil. Yeah. I just want to share all of this with you guys. If you'd like to support our channel, you can look at the top of comments. No, we do not get paid by YouTube because supposedly my content is harmful to a protected class of citizens. or illegal people, if you'd like to call them that. All right, so if oil had never been discovered or utilized, American lives would be significantly different in transportation, energy sources, manufacturing, consumer products, because the absence of oil would mean a lack of many everyday products, plastics, synthetic fibers, and traditional fertilizers, impacting everything from your clothing to your agriculture. The economy would look quite different with less emphasis on oil and gas. Jobs related to these industries would be absent, and there would have to be something else that could drive the economy. Global relations, many geopolitical dynamics have been shaped by oil interests. Without oil, international relations, conflicts, and alliances maybe would look different. Daily life would be more localized with less emphasis on global trade and mass production. People would have a closer connection to local agriculture and crafts. Now, do you see what they're doing? As they attack the oil industry and the removal of it from our lives, they can then implement their 15-minute cities. We're still seeing the Rockefeller create a problem and provide a solution at work in our daily lives, and most people don't even realize it. So they created oil. Most of our oil plants are old. So what are they going to do? They're going to let them blow up. They're going to cause them to blow up. They're going to cause the trains to derail because they're not going to put money into fixing the infrastructure. It is all on purpose. So all of that's going to happen. And when it does, you're not going to be able to travel. You're going to be herded into much smaller communities, much tighter spaces where you create an economy around yourself. Thank you, Leslie. Leslie told me I was 100% correct. And I am, because I can see what they're doing. I see the WEF all over this. Oh, I'm running out of power. I didn't charge my computer. I just wanted to say hi. We just got back from New Orleans. I am exhausted. If you'd like to row in our boat or donate to Stephen's growing medical expenses, I'll link all that at the end of this live. I love you guys so very much. Thank you for coming and just hearing me share this. I just wanted to share what I found out, and maybe hopefully praying it helps one of you. By the way, if you have not purchased our Growing Under a Poison Sky about geoengineering and how they're poisoning the skies, if I saw somebody put on here that we could use agriculture to create an economy. Not if they continue to poison the sky and the water and the soil, we won't. So first thing you have to do, guys, you have to clean all of that. And in our book, Growing Under a Poison Sky, we do actually show you that. We teach you how to do it in a way that you can actually afford to do it, even on thousands of acres. Leslie said our next newsletter will be talking about the globalist takeover. If you would like to get our newsletter, donate whatever you feel the Lord has told you to donate to our channel and put your email in the memo, and I will get you signed up for that. You guys have an amazing, blessed weekend. Hope to see you tomorrow.